Okay. Hello. All right, let's get started. Yes, I believe it. Okay, hi. I am Anne. I am a writer and a major geek, if this is not a clue. I have decided after some conversations that it was time to play some games with fantastic storytelling. So this game is called This War of Mine, and it is my favorite game thus far that I've played for storytelling. And in a minute, I will explain why. Computer. War has been raging for countless months, and the besieged city has been reduced to a sea of ruins by constant shelling. Going outside during daylight is like inviting snipers to target practice. Everything is in short supply, and what little aid reaches the city is seized by the most ruthless and best armed. Few residents were lucky enough to flee. The unlucky ones who missed the last refugee convoy are left to fend for themselves. Ordinary people huddling in the ruins, relying on only on each other to survive. So let's get some of these guys started. So this is a game by 11-Bit Studios, and it's been out for a while. I think it came out in 2014, but the DLC is new. I bought this when it had the Little Ones DLC. And in terms of storytelling, this is fascinating because this is in medias res, which basically means in the middle of. This is Act 2. This does not start in Act 1. So we're getting right into the action of the story. We don't know how these four people met each other. We don't know what started off the siege. And according to the wiki, man, I should get that up again on a different episode, but this is inspired by real life. And at the time this originally was released, it was extremely fascinating because we were dealing with stuff like this in the real world with Syria. So for a game like this, I mean, first of all, when you think of games that deal with war, it's almost always about the generals, the soldiers, the politicians. Very rarely do you see it from the point of view of the civilian who's not a rebel, not involved politically, who's just trying to mind their own business and have a happy life. So this, I guess you could call this a game for empathy, kind of like Papers, Please. Another game that hopefully I will be able to play in this series of great games. But the basic premise of this is you got to get to the ceasefire. And as I was saying on my Tumblr, I've had a lot of screw-ups with this game. I have had some of the most bizarre outcomes. I've gotten shot at. I've had some people die. I've had one ending where someone left. So the replayability of this is incredible, and it just adds to the storytelling. Now, I want to zoom out. Look at that artwork. That is gorgeous. But anyway, this is not my favorite house. There are two houses in this game. And this one is not my favorite. The other one, it's a brick house. And there's a lot more room because I've never figured out how to use this area back here with the treehouse. I mean, whenever I do a playthrough with a kid, I would hope I would get this one because this looks like kid territory here. Can't get any closer than that. Okay. I think I'll leave the pick. Eight, first of all. Yes. I got this for Christmas last year, and I've done a lot of playing around with it to see how the mechanics work. I mean, this is something that I'm learning from listening to a lot of animation people and artists in the game industry. Is a guy brings a game to work and they spend a lot of time trying to figure out how it's made. And because I'm wanting to be a writer for that part of the industry, I'm just studying and analyzing the heck out of some of these games. Yeah, I love the artwork of this game. Now, because I'm American, I have to use Fahrenheit. Someday I will learn Celsius. But yes, I have this on 40 days to ceasefire, early winter, long winter, moderate conflict, moderate winter, and to just play around and show you guys how the system works, I will be doing more than one playthrough to show both the storytelling and the replayability of this game. Because as I was taught in university, if you don't build something with really great replayability, it's not going to be something selected for a studio or even in an indie thing if you're trying to get in. So it's like when you think of something like Dark Souls, there's more than one ending. What are some other games? The Witcher has the option choice. They call it the illusion of choice. I mean, we're trying to, as writers, predict what you gamers are going to choose on. Do I want to be sinister? Do I want to be good? Or do I want to pick something in the middle ground? So a lot of games I'm seeing are going with that option, and there are some games I wish that would start doing that. And eventually I'll do a video on my wish list of what I wish certain studios would do. But yeah, this is going to be fun. And at some point, there is going to be me screaming in terror at some point. And if you've read any of my stuff and you felt like you need a hug, I owe you a tissue box, I owe you a shock blanket, my reactions in panicking will be your revenge. So, here you go. Okay, so let's go into more of the mechanics. Okay, so this is kind of an update to kind of give an idea on how our little shelter is doing. So, some thoughts. Fortunately, our shelter is in a place where you can get some respite from war. We have only one chair, we have one bed, but we could use more. It's hard to get a good night's sleep on hard, cold concrete. We don't have a radio. We don't know what's going on in the city. Zlata? I'll go with Zlata. Zlata is a blessing. Whenever she notices that someone is sad, she consoles them. We really miss books. A good book could help us forget the horrors of war. Staying here offers slight respite in these hard times. We lack coffee. Oh, I got someone who needs coffee. We have breaches in the walls. Our shelter is not safe and we have to constantly be on guard. And then here's our stuff from just scavenging in there. So each person has a quality trait, and if you've played this game before, you're probably thinking, why did I not go with someone who has more carrying capacity? Well, I value speed. Like I said, I've had playthroughs where I've had a lot of people die because they are not speedy and they're weighted down with all of the crap that's needed to make the shelter a fortress. So Then they have short little bio. Okay, so he's a coffee drinker. And then as time goes on, there'll be more to the backstory of this person. So Martin, something broke, I can fix it. Any worthless trash lying around, I can make plenty of useful stuff out of junk, and I don't waste material. All of them. Parts, bits of wood, plastic pipes, and all other things. I know how to make tools, furniture, stoves, heaters, whatever. Given enough time, I can make this place look almost like a proper home. I wish it was equally simple with mine. Okay, so that's a good bit of foreshadowing here. Then, Pavel. Before this whole mess began, I lived with my wife and son in the better part of the city. I haven't seen them in a long time. I hope they are okay. I'm not doing so well, as you can see. Who needs football players during war? Nobody cares about sports when every day can be their last. So I scavenged the ruins like everyone else, hoping for the best. And later, I was just accepted to the music academy when the war broke out. I had so many plans, I had dreams. I used to play the guitar, date boys, dance. My little brother Toddy always made me smile. It all seems like a dream now, replaced by this nightmare we live in. Yet, I still hope one day we can forget the war and carry on with our lives as if it had never happened. And Katya. Oh, she's slightly sick. Okay. Go lay down. Another coffee drinker. I grew up in the city, but went abroad to study and started working as a reporter. I'd been away for years. When the troubles escalated into war, I was picked to write reports on it. I'd volunteered anyway. I was so anxious to check on my parents, but it was too late. I found my house in ruins. My family had disappeared. I've been looking for them ever since. So another interesting thing is the foreshadowing to this, because at the very end, with when you get to the ceasefire and it's the "You've won Endgame" credits, you get a follow-up of, did this person find their parents? Did this person find their wife? Did this person find their brother? And it's fascinating. And I've not done a full playthrough with a child, and I'm looking forward to it. I did one playthrough where in the midpoint I had someone say, here, I need someone to watch this kid while I go look for whoever it was. So it's interesting to see how the narrative goes with each character. Okay, so what else can I do? Oh. Yeah, this is my problem. In the beginning, there's a lot of, or both beginning and end, there's quite a bit of waiting. And I'm not going to do a lockpick. I want the freaking crowbar. So, if I can't do anything else, I will end the day. I'm going to end the day. I'm not going to wait around doing nothing. Okay. One of these places I'm going to need. I think I'll go do that. So yeah, this is carrying capacity. And I do have a few mods in place. It's just to make sure that we can get enough stuff so that I'm not having to revisit the same place over and over again. Because I want to show the brilliance of this game's storytelling. So let's zoom out. Okay, so one fun thing. Why the heck does that thing says 440? Okay, one of the brilliance in the story of this war of mine is telling us Act 1 through the setting and telling the story of each little area through the setting, through what we find, what we see, And sometimes I get a neat little thing here that hints to the full story of the former residents of this place. And let's see if I still get that. But yeah, under normal circumstances without mods, it's pretty difficult to pull off what I'm doing here, where you have almost unlimited stacking with items. I don't know what the new update did, if it made it easier for stacking, but I'm not going to try yet. Okay, food. I'm gonna have to come back here a second time anyway, because I'm gonna need a shovel. But a lot of times I get a toy in here, which hints to the tragic story in this house. A family photo of parents and 2 daughters. Good thing the girls don't resemble their father. He looks like a bear. Yeah. Very good detail in storytelling. Okay, give me water. And I will come back for the sugar another day, I think. Normally my goal is to clear these places out the first time I visit, but sometimes they're just either too large to attempt that, or I don't get the backpack mod, because one of the backpack mods conflicts with the better stacking. And note this says, on the first day they robbed us, 2 days later they murdered our girls. I shot every one of them, but I don't want to use the gun anymore. It's broken and buried in the backyard. The next part looks shaky. If you're reading this, don't look for me. Oh, geez, I wish I could zoom in even more, because this area here looks like there's bullets in the wall. It doesn't look like normal wallpaper or whatever it is peeling off. I'm gonna have to dump some of that, but you know. Nope. Okay. Oh, come on, we know there's not anyone in here. You can walk faster. Yeah, that bugs me that one of the mods has screwed up the clock. Jeez, that just... Ooh. I've had problems where one of my mods sped up time. So I would just, like, have a short little burst to get whatever there was, and then run away quickly. So it really is disturbing when I see the clock in that position. Okay, let's see. I think I'll get rid of that. You know what? Let me go back to the fridge. It's always interesting to see how the distribution of supplies is depending on what you put for the amount of time for a scenario. Oh, I can double click and run. Okay, I did not know that. See, I'm still learning. Okay. 2. Ooh. That's not good. Where's we need Katya to stay alive. She's the person for getting the good trade deals. Security over comfort. I like how their little barks are just kind of reminders on what you need to do. Okay, so that hasn't changed. With this house, I always wonder if you could get to the roof. Don't know why. Hmm. Sorry if I fall silent. I'm thinking. I look at this and I just think of all the little tiny tools I'm gonna need eventually. Run away from that. I'm gonna do that. Oh, yeah. Hi. Okay, no new stories. See, this is another thing that's always puzzling. There's a fireplace right here. Why can't I just use it? Why do I have to build my own wood stove to keep this place warm? Yes, I agree. It is chilly. The temperature they have on the screen is probably the temperature it is out, or is in my garage right now. I'm playing this in winter where I'm at, so it's like, I know it's cold. I am in an unheated part in my house. I know that's cold. Yes, we could use a shovel. I wonder how realistic that animation is they have. Anyway. But yes, I should be talking about something more productive while I wait for things to happen. So, stories that are in medias res, as I said, it means in the middle of. So, when you think of stories that are like the cliched amnesia tropes, I can't think of that game, but Extra Credits has talked about it, where certain game studios could have done in medias res better with this setting telling the first act with, like, say, with the example of Amnesia, your character you're about to play has a certain status where it could be you're the stealth, you're the sniper, you're the brawn bouncer person. Sorry, language. So it's always interesting to see how Amnesia Res works among the three forms of media, meaning books, film, and video games. Because with video games, you have the opportunity to have little tiny clues scattered throughout the world. So for the instance of this War of Mine, it's you find a collection of letters, flyers, portraits, stories, graves, etc., where it tells the story of before. So in one of these houses, it talks about flyers that were dropped by the military of get out now and we'll treat you fairly, and then it's the character you have scavenged just going like, after what we saw them do, no one was willing to believe them. So it's fascinating the little bits of information they have to explain the first act. And then for stuff like films, they like to use stuff like flashbacks or private conversations to hint to what was in the first act. And then in books, it's a similar thing where there was one book I had to read for school where they were doing historical, so it's like every other chapter is a flashback to the guys in the submarine that the people in the present are doing an excavation of. So Amnesia Res is always fascinating. I mean, I've seen right ways to do it, wrong ways to do it, but regardless of right or wrong, it's always clever to see what is considered one more way to explain Act 1. Because when you think of the story structure, to completely remove the setup, the normal world, the start of the hero's journey, the call to action, basically, the entire section of the story that involves, here's my normal world, here's why I should not be going out on the adventure. I mean, think of how The Hobbit would be if you did not see the normal world and all you saw was the call to action or belly of the whale scenario with Bilbo, where it's like him running off going like, I'm on an adventure, or the first fight in that movie. I mean, that would completely change the entire setup of that character. We wouldn't know that Bilbo's kind of this guy where it's like, quit interrupting me, I'm trying to eat, or that's my stuff, quit touching my stuff, or I mean, you don't get to find out the stuff that shows he really wants to go on adventure. He's really coaxed by it, but he has the feeling of here is safe, there is danger. And I mean, there's so many other scenarios where you could try to put the stuff of remove the entire first act, and you would have a story so completely different that it's either interesting or you're looking at it going like, I don't get it. So it's always fun to find an Amnesia Res where it makes sense. And there are some video games that I've wanted to buy, but because they failed at Amnesia Res and I saw it in a review, I was like, why should I pay the money for it? And again, because I'm not that far removed from university, college, I am still in the mode of constantly remembering the you must do this stuff that my teachers would say. So I mean, for games, it's the stuff of think of how to get to the action the quickest, have options, and focus on replayability. So I mean, for this War of Mine, for example, since I'm playing it, when you do the create your own story, you have so many characters to pick from where they each have different skills. So, I mean, you have these people here where it's like bolster spirits, trade, handyman, fast runner, and then you have someone where it's like, I forgot what they call the characteristic, but it's someone where it's like he has the most amount of slots available for the scavenging, and then you have someone who's a good cook. So the combinations of possibilities for storytelling and your own experience with replayability, it explodes on itself because you have so many options. It could last you years to go through every single one, whether you have it on moderate, hard, speaking of the conflict, and then you have the stuff of no winter, winter, harsh winter. I mean, when you think of the variables, your mind explodes. I think of it and it's like, if I was to do one scenario a week, I would still probably not get every single combination I think of done in a year, 2 years. So it's like, it's incredible on that front. And again, the player has to feel like they control the story. So when you have stuff that's like, say, a linear RPG, people aren't always excited to play it for a second time. And I'm going to say something critical. It's not a popular opinion, but just with what you see with, say, Pokemon, I've not necessarily been in the situation where I want to replay it, especially for Sun and Moon. And I just got my copy of Ultra Sun and Moon, and I am struggling to go through it because it's like, you're leading me around on a leash. You're basically, it's taking away power from the player, whereas in the generation I first started playing, 2 and 3, you had so many variables as far as where you could go. You could loop back around. You don't have a route that's a complete freaking circle. So it's the stuff of, even on, as much as I love the Tales series, the Tales of series, sometimes they have stuff that's a little bit too linear for me now. So I'm replaying the old stuff of my childhood. I'm comparing it to like the 8th sequel in the series or the 5th sequel in the series, and it's like, okay, senpai, why did you start doing it this way? This way is not nostalgic enough, or it's not following your original formula. Why did you choose to do this? Because this is not convincing me to buy your stuff again, per se. So it may just be me, but I have a feeling that if I showed my gaming professor Sun and Moon, he would say, this is why you have to follow what I taught you guys. I mean, that first playthrough I had, I bought both versions, and I never felt the need to finish playing through Moon, and I'm not that far along in it at all, but and see, when you have as big of a gaming market as today, I mean, you don't just have the AAA industries, you have a lot of stuff with indie studios and developers where they're putting their necks on the line to do innovative things. So, I mean, yeah, you don't want to screw up your franchise, but when you look at what the indie scene's doing, it's like, what would you rather play? Something that is an homage with a new twist on something that you grew up loving? Or something where the franchise has been so overdone that they're not following their original formula. They wanted to shake things up, and by shaking it up, they're not getting the same level of quality that they used to have, either through the story, the mechanic, or just the enjoyment. I mean, I will say this, when I got introduced to Steam, I stopped playing consoles. I've only recently bought new consoles. I bought a PS4 and I bought a 3DS. That was simply because I wanted to pass my gaming class with flying stars. Because when you're writing essays that are just based off of games from the 90s and early 2000s, and the classmate you're reviewing has a game that just came out like a few weeks ago or a month or two ago, it's like, I feel old or I feel out of date. How am I going to really pass? Sorry, I am just blabbering on a soapbox, but okay, that's the first time we've had that happen. You say you slept poorly. Well, okay, where should I go? I want to go to the ghost house, but I don't think I'm ready yet. I think... Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at the setting here. We have dead body, half in, half out of the window. Car with the hood up. Stuff on fire. Lots of smoke, lots of fire. I'm not going to peek through the hole this time. Okay. Hello, rat. Yes, you better run. Okay, so let's get firewood. Then there's a basement. I think I'll take that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come to some of these places several times, but I don't think I will do it on screen. I might just, well, depends on what I do during the day on this. Because I have a strategy for long-term stuff, and maybe just for fun, I'll have to do a scenario on the longest amount of days before ceasefire. Okay. Yep, this is the one I was telling you about. One of the flyers dropped on the city. It reads, "This is a zone of anti-terrorist operation. Persons remaining in the city will be treated as terrorist supporters. For your own and your family's safety, leave Horgen immediately. The army guarantees you safe passage." Not many believe them after the atrocities they had committed, so this is a pretty big clue to what happened in Act 1, or the prologue to Act 1 with this city. Boo. Boo. I would have preferred inventory Tetris to this. Okay, let's go to the basement to see if we need anything that needs to have an axe or a crowbar. I know I'm going to need a shovel, but let's use axe, crowbar, motion. And I'm going to need to dig. I don't know if I have the time to dig because my clock is screwed up. Dang it. Oh, at least I'm getting a lot of wood. I don't normally get that much wood in a playthrough. Oh, the suspense. This is why I like backpack mods. You can have your tools and loot everything in the same go. You don't have to pick and choose. But yeah, because this game is a moral game on what would you be willing to do for survival or for others, it's fascinating because I've seen playthroughs on Let's Play channels where it's like, do everything good, don't rob from other people, don't kill, and then you have the people where it's like, screw that, I'm going to have everything on the table. So I've not yet decided what I will do. And it all depends on how desperate the game makes me. I've had only 2 playthroughs where I've had to resort to violence, and it's almost always against a sniper or a rebel. It's very rarely the vulnerable, but I mean, I'm probably going to go with the option of random as far as behavior, because that probably emulates real life. There's nobody in here. I can make all the noise I want. How about this? How long have I been recording? My thing does not have a timer. Okay, I think I will end the episode here and immediately start another one. So I will see you guys in a few minutes.